All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Steve Malzberg Show from our New York City studios. And the following guest needs no introduction. We are joined by the one and only Michael Savage, of course, host of the Savage Nation. I'm giving an introduction anyway. And author of the new, soon-to-be bestseller, Government Zero. There it is on your screen. No borders, no language, no culture. Hello, Michael.
Steve, thanks for having me on Newsmax TV. It's always a great honor.
Well, the honor is ours. And, you know, you are a borders language culture guy. So to see the title of the book, Government Zero, No Borders, No Language, No Culture, right away, I know it's not too optimistic a scenario you're painting.
Well, here's the thing. It's not just another book. It has solutions. It has the ammunition people need to convert a husband, a wife, a neighbor, a child who's been brainwashed in the government schools. They don't really know what's happening to this country. The machine is so powerful, Steve, as you well know. People have no idea. Remember the story came out about 2 weeks ago that the EPA spends $60 million a year on public relations, external and internal? Okay, if a single department of Barack Hussein Obama spends $60 million to put out propaganda, what are they spending to make Barry look like a great patriotic commander-in-chief? $1 billion a year? $200 million a year? Take a look at the real story. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, but I don't want to go into Obama bashing. He bashes himself every time he speaks if you really listen to what he's doing.
No, but you present a 40, as you mentioned, there are solutions, a 40-point plan to take this country back to the original intent and the ways the founders intended us to be.
I don't know about the founders. You know, this is another misnomer, and I don't want to split hairs here. Everyone keeps going back to the founders, and there's a little discomfort for me there for one reason. The principles were fantastic, but I think we all have to agree it was a little different, the country. Very homogeneous, predominantly white people, Native Americans who were disenfranchised, didn't vote, slaves who were here didn't vote, right? Landholders, mainly white men, God bless them, they built the nation, and a small land area, small population. The rules are great if you are a religious person who believes in the Bible, follows the Bible, and I mean the 10 Commandments. I don't mean putting women in burqas and performing sexual mutilations on your young girls and blowing things up. I'm talking about the religion of peace called Christianity. That's one story. But now we're living in a pluralistic world, a multicultural world, for better or for worse. That's what we live in. But that's nothing new. Steve, I grew up in New York. I'm an immigrant son. I walked around the Lower East Side of New York. I walked through Chinatown. There were no signs in English. It was all in Chinese, right? In the Jewish area, it was all in Yiddish. In the Italian area, the signs were still in Italian. It didn't bother me. I'm aware of that. I'm not looking to go back to the horse and buggy or the musket. But we're not talking about that. When my grandfather came here, he taught me to be an American, learn English, love the country. It's the greatest place on earth. Unfortunately, we all know that's not what's happening. Now, this is old news. Everyone's heard this before. But I lay out in Government Zero, case by case, chapter by chapter, precisely what the decimation is, what Barry from Honolulu will likely do unless he is stopped, and I mean stopped legally. Don't get me wrong. I've called for the methods, and the first thing is exposure. It's knowledge. But the book is written for the 2016 election, Steve.
Well,
unless we can convert millions of people to what's really going on and get them to vote on the right side of things instead of the wrong side of things, the country is forever doomed, and I mean forever doomed.
Well, I couldn't agree.
Nobody can tell me that bringing in Syrian Muslims, mainly young men of military age, is something good for America.
And that's what I was going to say, Michael. Each of the past two elections, especially the last one, I said it's the most important election of my lifetime and possibly in the country's history. And now, I guess, I feel that this one is even more important than the last one and the one before it. But this one really, like you said, if Hillary wins, if a Democrat wins, there may be no turning back after 4 or 8 more years.
No, there would be no turning back. We know she's as corrupt as Cattlegate. We know who she is. She's nothing new. Who's Hillary Clinton? A fresh new face? She's a corrupt harridan. We had 8 years of her running the country with her husband, my husband. Forget about the sexual antics. I frankly could care less. What I cared about was the corruption that surrounded the Clinton machine. That's what we need again? There's only one solution, which is a patriot who is nationalistic.
All right, but
it's Donald Trump.
That's what I was going to ask you. It's Donald Trump. Okay, so you believe Donald Trump is the answer. Are you concerned that not only is he behind in 3 polls in Iowa, but the New York Times CBS poll today shows him, I think, 4 or 5 points behind Ben Carson nationally for the first time.
New York Times, CBS, Pravda means nothing. Do you think they interviewed one conservative voter? No. Polls don't mean anything. And Iowa, as I say, God bless Iowa. I'm on a big station in Iowa. But the fact of the matter is Iowa is not America. Iowa is a very different place. If they're going to use their white guilt to elect a man simply because he's an African-American who speaks quietly, we're in real trouble. We've had our experiences already with that.
Is that what you think they're doing?
What are they doing? Why are they choosing Carson? Does he have any experience running a lemonade stand? Does he have any business experience? I think he's a wonderful man. I think he's a fine man. He should run DHS. I mean, not Department of Homeland Security. He should run the health department, whatever they call it, Department of Welfare. I don't know how they keep changing the name. That's what he should be running. Right. Department of Welfare, the health department, NHS, the National Health Service, the NIH. He'd be perfect for that. He could clean up medicine and science. He doesn't know how to manage a nation.
All right. So you also say that Hillary and Republicans are in, at least this was a headline on Breitbart, I must confess, and I read most of the story, are in cahoots. In what respect?
New article today on WorldNet Daily. Michael Savage, Obama owns Republicans. GOP not divided, it's compromised. But yesterday's story was the bigger one, which is you're referring to, which is Republicans in cahoots with Hillary. What did I mean by that? I watched the hearings last week, the so-called Benghazi hearings, and I kept waiting for The Godfather Part 1 to appear, meaning the surprise witness. You remember the uncle from Sicily who comes in with the funny hat?
Yeah.
And he doesn't say a word, and the rat who was going to rat out the mafia suddenly dummies up because he looks at him. That was the end of the show, blew the hearings apart. Where was the surprise witness that the fake Republican interrogators could have brought in? And who are they? I named them in Government Zero. I named the generals and the admiral who Obama fired right after Benghazi. They were ready to send aid. They had the planes, they had the copters, they had the special forces, they had Delta Force. They were ready to go. Somebody said, don't go. Somebody let the ambassador die and the bodyguards die. Somebody let that whole thing come apart. Who was that somebody? I don't know. Bring in the admiral who was fired by Obama. Admiral Gouet, by the way. Bring in General Carter Ham, 26-year military veteran, African-American, in charge of the Africa Command. A great man, ready to help. Fired right after Benghazi. Why was he not brought in by the Republicans during their hearing on Benghazi? Because they were working with Hillary to anoint her. The establishment does not want Trump. The establishment would rather work with Hillary Clinton than with Donald Trump.
All right, let me ask you quickly about the Black Lives Matter. We have another incident in a school in South Carolina. A teacher said to the kid, put down your cell phone, stop talking. No. They called the principal, put it down. No. I'm calling the cop. Cop comes in, put it down or I'll drag you out of your seat. No. So the cop drags her out of the seat. Now the FBI is investigating. Black Lives Matter, they chant in the streets, you've seen it, and they don't denounce it, the leadership. Put pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. Where the heck are we heading?
The Black Lives Matter movement, and I'm going to say it like it is, are Obama's shock troops. They're the brown shirts that Hitler had in Germany. How's that? Does that work for you? Never forget what Hitler did in the beginning. He used street thugs that he gave uniforms to, brown shirts and ties, to beat people up with clubs, to intimidate the police, to cause a total takeover of civil society. Make no mistake about it. This is the secret private army that Barack Hussein Obama's been talking about. That's what they're building. Let's say I'm paranoid. Let's say we're all crazy. What are they then? They're sterling citizens. They're all on their way to medical school before they became thugs in the street. Please, you know that's not the case.
Absolutely. Michael, we got 30 seconds. What do you want people to know about Government Zero?
Buy the book, share it with a neighbor, buy one, get one free, meaning give one to a neighbor, give one to a friend. Steve, you know, I've got to say this right now. I gave away $100,000 of my own money last year, 5 scholarships, 20 grand each, to 5 deserving college students who wrote great essays on what it means to be an American. I am not writing books to make a living. I make a good living in radio.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm writing this book to turn things around to save the country.
Michael Savage, ladies and gentlemen, there's the book on your screen, Government Zero. Thank you, sir.
Teddy says bye.
Yes, Teddy. I love Teddy. The panel's next. Don't go away.